I'm a doctor now, so you know I love a syllabus. Here are the books, the films, and the music that inspired Demons Hate Fresh Air. I found these Austin Kleon books right after moving home to Kansas City, which was actually just a few months before the pandemic started. So I was feeling really isolated like most folks, especially from my friends back in New York. And this book really inspired me to find new ways to share my music. It's just full of lots of creative ideas and quotes from all sorts of interesting people, including the Ingmar Bergman quote, which named this album. So let's talk about Ingmar Bergman. He's an iconic filmmaker. He's made so many amazing films. My favorite is probably Persona. Some of the imagery in the film, I think, will take me a whole lifetime to process. It's incredible. Also, shout out to The Magician, which is an underrated film I think most people don't know. I first saw Frances Ha at the IFC Center in New York City, which is one of my favorite places in the entire world. It's a film about a young, struggling artist living in New York City, and I saw it in my early 20s, and let's just say it hit hard. I rewatched it over the pandemic, and it really holds up. This time I took all different lessons from it, of course. I was flipping through my copy of the Criterion and looking at the articles and found this title, which went on to name the second track of my album. The musician who's influenced my music the most over the last decade or so has to be Andy Schaaf. He's a Canadian singer-songwriter. He gets a lot of praise for his lyrics. He usually tells a story over the course of an album, which are obviously great, but I think somehow his melodies and his arrangements are slightly underrated. When you mix it all together, you get something that's both extremely sophisticated, but also really accessible. It just really works for me. He released an album in January 2020 called Neon Skyline, which I like, but I actually prefer the B-sides that he released a little later from that album called Wilds. There's a track on there called Green Glass, which influenced my tune Green Girl, serendipitous. There are two covers on this album. The first is Street Woman by Ornette Coleman from the album Science Fiction, which is one of my favorite albums of all time. It's one of the first tracks we played as a trio and immediately found chemistry, and I knew this was a band that I wanted to keep playing with. The other cover is Dawn Chorus by Tom York off his album Anima. It's a really beautiful track that's kind of rubato, full of these amazing synthesizers and kind of not really in a meter or in a shifting meter. We started messing with it, and Ben had to detune his bass to drop D to get that low note. And I decided I wanted to sing it, which was scary because I'm not the best singer, but it was just one note over and over again, and I felt I could handle that. When we started putting it together in the studio, again, it felt really magical. I'm really proud of that one. If you take the sounds from those two albums, kind of Ornette-style free jazz mixed with the synthesizers from Anima, that's the sound that makes up Demons Hate Fresh Air. All right, let's start with saxophone trios because that's really the core of this album. There are so many iconic saxophone trio albums that it's impossible just to pick a couple. So probably the saxophone trio album that I listened to the most in my life is Sonny Rollins Live in Europe 1959. Most people know the Live at the Village Vanguard, which are also iconic, amazing records, but I actually prefer these live tracks from Europe, which were recorded on radio broadcasts and I think even TV. There are actually some YouTube clips around you can find if you want to watch some of them, which are amazing. The drums are really washed out because of the way these were broadcast, and it just makes it feel so energetic. I've transcribed, I think, almost every single saxophone solo on this album. It's highly recommended. Of course, gotta shout out Joe Henderson, State of the Tenor. I think that was one of the first jazz records I really connected with. I've listened to it a million times. And now for something a little more modern, I really love this Michael Blake album called Right Before Your Very Ears. The trio, the chemistry between the three of them is just really off the charts. And it's the right mix, I think, of serious and playful that I love. All right, those are a few of the things that inspired Demons Hate Fresh Air. I really appreciate everyone checking out the album and sharing it with their friends. Every time one of these albums come out, we're self-releasing it. It's a labor of love. So any support is so appreciated. More soon.